Wow.
Wow. We're here.
Hey, went on a morning run this morning. It was beautiful. And you were in the gym. How'd it go?
It was good.
Yeah?
It was a nice day to just let my legs have a little nap, right?
Yeah.
It's like lay down, take a nap. You're going to be okay. You can run tomorrow.
I always enjoy a good, sunrise run in the morning right before the sun crests over the hill over there. It's so nice to get out, smell the fresh nature, the air, the river, the trees just glowing with the green leaves. It was quite beautiful. It just smelled so refreshing today. It was awesome being out there.
Get me in and out of the door before it gets hot. That's my motto.
That's
Since we
key.
trained in, mostly sub-zero like weather
It felt like that.
for
Yeah.
Roby Creek. Is that what we're going to talk about today?
We are totally going to talk about that. But before we get started, I really want to just share this quick story because I just think this is so rad. This is why we do this. At Embers Rising, first of all, welcome. I'm your host, Wendy J. And next to me is my incredible partner, best friend, husband, amazingness. David's just looking for something. The list continues on.
Yeah, I wasn't going to interrupt. I'm like, okay, let's see where
Mr.
where this
David.
goes. Like, I feel more incredible on a Monday morning already.
Than you ever have. So yeah, welcome. Dave and I are just breaking down a new version of our podcast, which last year on season 1, we really dove into power couple tips, designing your day, maximizing your impact. It was all about couples crushing it together and really just all in on power couple mode. That's really what it was, like biohacking for entrepreneurs. It was just all about that. And then we decided to flip the script and let's just do hat backwards, totally different set scene and ideas. And let's dive into what fuels our flame to help you fuel your flame and get it done. Really to keep going out there, because that's the big thing of life, right? We want to keep going.
And make it a little more up to date, right? Like we were pulling important concepts, but they were old concepts. And so we're just sort of now talking about now, right? In fact, it's like changing a religion. We've become nowists. This is nowism.
It wasn't old concepts, because those concepts, for sure, if you are a power couple and you're looking for tips on how to maximize your performance, your day, working together, there's a ton of great content in season 1 if you want to dive into it. We just wanted to make the production a lot different, and the content itself, diving into Dave and I actually doing adventures as athletes, and then also talking about we are coaches, power couple coaches. And so we were kind of heavy on the first season on that. And now we really want to dive into some of the adventure athlete stuff that we do and then kind of make a combination. So I don't know. It's all about fueling the flame that we have and then helping you fuel your flame. But before we get started, really, I want to share this quick little story. Share a little story, Dave, while I'm pulling this up with this.
Well, I'm not sure what story you're about to tell here. So we sell things on Facebook Marketplace, eBay, whatever. Like if something doesn't get used in our house for over several hours,
It's going out,
and
right?
it's not nailed down, Wendy picks it up and carts it out the door. Sometimes we sell it, sometimes we give it away, sometimes it goes to a good cause. But however it exits, it for sure exits quickly. So if I'm not using something that I am planning on using in the future, I have to hide it somewhere.
Right. That's very true. Yeah. Things don't sit around our place too long. So
Which is bad news for my gear closet that has all my tech and camera gear, because sometimes you're going to need that one thing, just not right now. And when I see it start to inch its way out the door, I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. I need that dongle.
you gotta have it. You gotta have it, Dave.
That
I
goes
know.
that goes to my old Droid Razor phone. They
my
may be coming
gosh.
back in style. Remember those things? You used to be able to.
I don't know. This sounds like my mom, who used to. What am I talking about? Who still does? Every device that she has, she keeps, and then she just, when she's done with it, she just puts it in a drawer and gets another one. She's got drawers in her basement of devices. I mean, from 15 years ago, 20 years ago, just devices. I mean, digital cameras when they first came out. I mean, it's just lots of devices.
Oh, is that where that comes from? Like you just don't want to be. You don't want to be your mom.
That's right. Yes.
So my dad actually, we had multiple drawers of wires. Anything electronic, didn't matter what condition it was in, it went in the drawer of wires. And when you needed something, you would need to go into the drawer of wires. And there was always speaker wire in there. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, the speaker wire. It was colored.
It was colored.
Yeah, the color cords.
And you had to take the stripper and strip out the ends and sort of put
yellow,
them
red,
together.
blue.
And then you'd push down the thing in the back of the speaker and put the wire in. That's how old I am. We used to have to wire our own sound.
Wow. Okay, so back to the story, Dave. Stay focused. I just have to do a shout out because this is why we do this. This is so, and I hope that someday this person's listening out there. But we had a young lady who stopped by to grab one of our staging sets. It was a pink velvet adjustable stool that we used in the background for one of our set designs when we were teaching and doing other things back in travel hospitality world. And this young lady came by and picked up my stool. And I was so happy because it was like the perfect thing. She was in love with it. It was like the perfect size. She loves pink. So shout out to Braylee, I think is her name. And her mother shared a quick little story as she was standing there on the front patio that she was a runner and she doesn't run anymore because she's got some health challenges. And so I just want to shout out because I have battled myself, and I want to break that down in another episode, David, with my own health challenges of how to keep going, because I know how tough it is when you are wanting to do something so bad and your health is preventing you from doing the thing and you just feel like giving up. But I also want to encourage you on how I've really overcome a lot of my health challenges to be where I'm at today is to never give up and go find someone else that has your story. You know, I flipped the script when I was doing a lot of my research out there on Google. It was more like, you know, before it was, you know, finding the symptoms that you had and then researching protocols. I flipped the script and said healing stories or how I healed from X. And then I found blogs and articles and podcasts and YouTube videos that blew my mind of these people healing their thing, whatever it was. And so it was so great. So shout out to if you are struggling with a battle of whatever it is on your health, we really encourage you, because Dave and I have both had some health challenges, to be where we're at today, to go all in and never give up and go find what you need to take the next step. Because the last thing you want to, you know, do is prevent yourself just from enjoying life, especially if it's something that you really are passionate about, you know, like this young lady's mother who looked like she was definitely a runner. I would love to see her back out on the trails. I would love that for her. It just seemed like she was really passionate about that. I think she said she had a son that was also had just finished a race out in St. George. So anyway, that story just fueled me. So thank you, Braylee, and your mom and family. I really encourage you guys to just do what you can to really continue fueling your flame and finding whatever you need out there to, you know, heal yourself and make the next steps to get out there and do the thing you love.
Awesome. I love that. So here we are, Embers Rising. And if you're out there thinking, how am I going to change my life? Then this episode is for you.
Absolutely. Where do you want to start with this? Because I'm kind of excited to talk about what we chose to talk about to help you all was training for our first half mountain trail marathon. It's kind of a lot of words to say, but it was our first one that we had done together. And I've never raced as a runner, and David's never raced as a runner. I've had a background.
In fact, I've never run as a runner.
You've never run as a runner, and I have a background of mountain bike racing career for 10 years, but never actually done like trail running. So this was a big deal. So yeah, dive in. Dave has notes today. I wish you could see us. We don't have our video up, and we're still working on this podcast room. You guys are part of our journey, and we're just getting ready to actually just make this pretty cool so you guys can see us. But we wanted to at least share where we're at.
So starting running the race to Roby Creek, that was one of the concepts that bubbled up last year. If we're going to start running, we might as well have a goal. Maybe that motivates you. We picked a few of them. One of them was the race to Roby Creek, and I shrugged my shoulders because I said, sure, why not? It's in our hometown. And, you know, it was one of those situations where you just didn't know what you didn't know, right? Like I didn't know it was the toughest half marathon in the Pacific Northwest. And I didn't know what it was going to take, but I sort of have this motto like grow before you know, right? And you just have to do the thing that gives you the power. So I started running, right? And I started running like 4 months before the event. You would think that would be enough, but as it turns out, I did finish.
You did finish. I was just going to say there was a bigger motivation behind just doing this half marathon. Okay. Because we had decided that we were going to do the Grand Canyon, and we were like, if we can't finish a half marathon at half of the elevation, there's no way we can run the Grand Canyon. So that was the bigger motivation to actually just get in and do this. Because we were like, okay, how torn up are we actually going to be on this if we're actually do the Grand Canyon? And the way that we split this up that we knew was we had planned this race, and 3 weeks after we were going to run the Grand Canyon. So there wasn't a lot of recovery time. It was like, done with this, and then boom. And keep in mind, for your average race runners, that's nothing for you. We understand that. But as a brand newbies, there was so much logistics and so much planning and so much healing for recovering that we needed to think about before we got to Grand Canyon. So yeah, I just had to say that was the bigger motivation to actually do. So we do want to break down, what did it take to do a half marathon, the half mountain trail marathon? And if you're living in Idaho or you don't, because a lot of people come from all over to do this particular race, it draws in about 2,900 participants. So it's quite a big deal.
Yes, when we heard about the sign up, I'm like, oh, the sign up starts on this date. And then I started reading, and they said you have to hover over your computer at the given time when they release the tickets, because they'll be gone in 15 minutes. I didn't believe that. I'm like, there's really 2,900 people that want to do this thing in Boise, Idaho. But yeah, I ended up with number like 2926 or something. It was crazy. And we were hovering, so it still brings back nightmares. So let's just compare real quickly.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, go for it.
How long did it take you to run that thing?
So it took me, I think my time was like 2 hours and 24 minutes.
So I think that's incredible. I was shooting for that time, but it took me the most of 3 hours. In fact, like 3 hours and 2 minutes, or I don't even know what it was. Like there was a point in time when I stopped counting and I just started praying. And so it was a really, really bad day for the ego. But, a lot of times in life, like a bad day for the ego is a good day for the soul, right? And it just sort of like satisfied me, because I've always said I'm going to run a half marathon. I'm going to run a marathon. I never said I was going to run an ultra, which you keep batting around the house like it's going to happen. So usually that means it's going to happen. Like I better up my game. But yeah, I'm humbled every time I go out there. But, it's been 6 months now, and I'm actually sort of comfortable. And I've convinced my brain, right, that we love to run. And that took a while, right? Because the first 30 days, my brain said, bullshit. Like, you don't love to run. You hate this. And then the next 30 days is like, well, we'll put up with it. And now it's a full-time, like, let's go. And you asked me, do I get that runner's high? Maybe I do. I don't know yet. I still say ouch quite a bit, though.
Well, yes, you do. That is for sure. I think diving back into this race, training for it, we had great training runs. We were doing it together. It was in the cold. We were 4 or 5 days a week. We were out there, rain, snow, freezing wind. We were getting our time on feet in, for sure, no doubt. So I didn't expect what had happened to me anyway, because we had run the course. We had not done the backside of the course. We did a little bit of the backside of the course, and we drove the backside to kind of check it out. It had been pretty snowy and muddy back there, so we couldn't drive it up until maybe the weekend before we drove it. I think it was like the weekend before the race. The snow finally melted off. We were able to drive it. It wasn't as muddy. And we're like, hey, let's just go see how steep it is. Because everyone said the backside is the worst. We drove it and it was like, it's not that bad. We're in our 4Runner driving up the mountain. And we had crest over, and we had ran down maybe a quarter mile and then come back up to the summit and we had done the front phase, all the way to the summit and back down. No problem. Not a lot of pains, we had gone through our days, but nothing like the race day. And if you've been following my journey, or if not, my journey in the race itself at the very beginning of that start line, because race day was pretty epic. It was a pretty incredible experience.
Oh, I was higher than a kite. There was bands and mariachis and all of these people just high-fiving, and it was just like a sea of runners. And this is the first race that, of course, I've ever run. Here's a hint for anybody that's new in the running world.
Yes.
Don't start at the front of the pack unless you run like a 7-minute pace, right? Because I got passed by more people in the first mile than I think I've ever seen in my life. It was sort of like a wave.
I like the guy who was next to me who was like 68 or something. And he said, he was like in a tank top. I don't think he was even wearing a running vest. And, he just looked at me and he said, "So what are you going for?" And I'm trying to figure out, what is he talking about? Like, what does he mean? What am I going for? So I kind of nonchalantly say, I'm like, "Oh, I'm not sure," because I'm trying to figure out where he's going with this. And I said, "Well, what about you?" And he says, "Oh yeah, I'm going to do it." He says, "I'm going to do it in like 1:58. I think he said, "I'm going to do it in 1:58. This guy crushed it, by the way, in 1 hour 50. Was he 68, 72, something like that? Yeah, I remember it was on his tag.
He was significantly older and faster and stronger than me. So
and so then I was like, yeah, I'm gonna try under 2 hours too. That was my goal on race day. But I can tell you, I have been working through a torn hamstring for over a year, so I've been PTing that plus a lot of strength training to move through the chronic injury, and have had blisters, but not really. Have had anything significant blisters. Never really thought about, needing to dial in my shoes or socks or anything like that. I just bought, a shoe that seemed to fit better than what I already had. I had been kind of swapped shoes maybe 6 weeks before the race to really get my feet into them, get some time on it, and then did the race. And from my experience was going uphill, all these people. I remember before I share that, I remember Dave and I had a very big education piece because it was all about making sure we had hydration packs, making sure we had the right fuel. What do you put in the flasks other than water? What types of electrolytes should we be getting? Or is there a carb electrolyte we could get? We played around with all of that on our training runs so that we knew what was going to affect us. You're giving me like a nod. Yes?
Yes.
Is that not true?
For sure.
And there also, David's guilty of this, days where David didn't plan very well and he ran out of fuel or ran out of fluids. Is that true?
It's true. And, you got to hand it to Wendy. If you know her, she is never unprepared, right? Like preparing is probably one of her core values for things, right? And for this race, we were not unprepared at all. In fact, every time we go out, we're not unprepared. Yeah. Sometimes physically I'm underprepared. Right. My mind thinks I can do more than my body actually will put up with, but we move through it. So
I tend to take things over the top. When they said, make sure you have a drop bag, I was like, drop bag. And now I am like one of those persons that needs everything in, separate little baggies with labels and like all of that. I'm one of those super organized, irritating people. And I love first aid. I've been a wilderness first responder. I just love things more organized. So when it was like drop bag, I'm looking at like the size requirements and hello, this is just the Roby Creek race. This is not a pro, have to have the perfect size bag. But you know what? I went all out. I found the perfect Victory bags by a company called Victory Bags, who makes the perfect size bag for your incredible ultra run, by the way. So shout out to Victory Bags because they have made us some incredible bags they're just mind-blowing. Everything is perfectly organized. Everything you need in your drop bag is right there. So check them out. But that was another really game changer for us because we were able to fit everything in when we got done to change out of our poles were able to fit in there. First aid was in there, more snacks, change of clothes, all of that was in there. Extra shoes.
All of our checklists. You've got to have a checklist, right? You're not prepared if you don't have a checklist.
So preparing was this. And so I really learned this by diving into other people's podcasts, YouTube videos, reading other forums, other blog posts, other people that have done marathons. I was really diving into like, I just don't want to overwhelm myself, but I want to get the right thing and then just go for it. So we ended up with Solomon race vests. We had Victory bags, drop bags, which were incredible. And then we used, I can't remember, I think we had Salt Heads electrolytes and we used BPN's carb electrolytes, which we absolutely loved. I love having carb electrolytes. That was great, especially when you're not feeling like eating, to get some carbs in every 15 minutes was perfect. So that was kind of our fuel plan. And then obviously we had our snack bars and whatever else. I love dried fruit. I love bringing like dried mangoes or dried figs or something. So
And there was an interesting selection of aid stations along this race because it is a huge event. So the first aid station, I don't even know if it was an aid station. It may have just been an impromptu group that set up the bacon cheeseburgers.
Oh my gosh, that was awesome.
I was drawn to them and then realized I had a long way to run. So no bacon cheeseburger for me. But at the summit, they had
Temptation Station.
The Temptation Station. They
one
had
of the-
donuts. They had Fireball, the whiskey. I didn't do either of those, although a
my
donut
gosh.
may have gone over good. But someone had Otter Pops, and I'm like,
my
I
gosh.
actually turned around. I'm like, it doesn't really matter at this point.
Oh, a cold, icy Otter Pop.
And then
That
I grabbed,
says summer.
I grabbed a couple handfuls of those and sucked them down, and thought to
great
myself,
idea.
"Oh wow, I only have 4 miles left, and it's all downhill." Unfortunately, it was the steepest downhill you could imagine. That caused an extreme amount of pain after you tried running it. Like you just weren't even prepared for the steepness.
Okay, so before you get into that, let me share. Okay, so we're at the start line, and everything is just happening with music. The runners are lining up. Dave and I are trying to find our position here. We're like, well, we're kind of the first pack, and there's like 2,000 some people behind us. I think we were in the first like 500 to 1,000 people, probably somewhere in there. Maybe 500. We were definitely close to the front.
Right, until the gun went off. And then you were still there for a while, but I was just way in the back with people trampling, trying to get around me, like, get out of the way.
I charge up and I'm like, okay, take it slow, head on up. As I remembered to bring my bandana. And there's one section on the road that I soaked my bandana on the creek to put it around my neck. Nobody was doing this, by the way. And crazy enough, we brought our trekking poles. Nobody else was ready. I think Dave and I were the only ones that actually brought our trekking poles. Nobody else was doing this. There were kids that were passing me so fast that they were just like giant, I don't know, giraffe. I don't know. It was like a leopard or something. It was just like whoosh, like a cougar. I mean, they were just gone. I'm like, wow, this is not going as I expected, but that's okay. I'm just out here doing it.
Yeah, I agree. They shouldn't let kids run in
like,
adult
wow,
races anymore because they're way
crazy.
faster.
So I stopped at the creek. I soaked my bandana, threw it around my neck. I also had a sun bandana around my neck, so I got that wet, threw it around my neck. That saved me going up because the day we raced in April, which is either full on snow here in Idaho or it's sunshine. We happened to have a sunshine race day, and it was actually hot for that day. Actually, really hot,
Really, really hot.
which was super rare for the month of April. That's just rarity that we have that.
We had a training run
Yeah.
the week before where
Mm-hmm.
we pre-ran the course, and I have a video. It was 37 degrees out
was so
that day.
cold. It was
So the
really
day we ran, it bumped up to 80, and that's what happens in the mountains.
Yeah, it got hot. So I'm running up, and now, granted, remember, everyone's like, "Oh no, how do you expect to do?" And I'm thinking about my hamstring. I'm like, I don't know because I don't know. I've already run this, so I already know how I'm going to feel. But my hamstring at a certain elevation just gives out, and it's torn right in the middle. So that's the part that I've been rehabbing. It's not on the end of the bicep of the hamstring. It's like right in the meat of the belly. So it's extremely difficult to rehab. But a lot of the strength training that I'm doing has definitely helped. So I'm making it up really slow. And there's a guy that comes up to me like right towards the top, right when I whip out my trekking poles. And he comes up and he starts chatting with me, and he doesn't have a pack. He has no water, and he's just casually running next to me, David. And he says to me, "Hey, what's your name? Who are you here with? How's the race going?" And we're maybe, a quarter mile from the summit anyway. And I tell him my name. I'm like, my name's Wendy, and I don't even ask him. I'm like, I'm training for, I'm just kind of using this as a practice run for the Grand Canyon. We're doing a few weeks, so I got my poles out, Oh my gosh. This guy finally takes off up and over. I never see him. He's like, "Well, I'll see you again." I thought, yeah, no, I'll never see you again. We get to the top. I never stop at one aid station, by the way. I keep going. And once I crest the top, I'm now on the downhill. And maybe the first 200, 300 feet, my feet are starting to hurt. And I'm like, oh, okay, you know what? It's probably blister. Not a big deal. I can deal with this. I get maybe a mile down, and my feet are really hurting, like really hurting, where I'm cringing my toes on every step. Like you pull back your toes in your shoe just to take another step. And I still know I had like 4.5 miles to go down the very steep descent. It was like 1,700 feet down, like less than 4 miles. So it was pretty steep. It was like some switchbacks, but mostly just straight down, you know? And I hear like 2 miles down, someone from this aid station yell at me, you know, "Go, Wendy." And I look over and I'm like, that's that guy. That's that guy that was next to me. And it really gave me a boost. So man, it was just like such a shout out. The other thing that, as I was in my pain, is another way to get through those pains. Cause I know it was like such a temporary pain. I'm like, this is really going to hurt, but to get myself out of it, I'm also so grateful for all the incredible people that were supporting this race. You know, all of the first aid that they had out there, all of the volunteers. So every time I did come across, you know, first aid volunteers, people out on their ATVs, watching the course, managing everybody, I was always like, thank you for being here. And it helped me, you know, knowing the pain that I was in, just kind of like battle through while I was seeing them. So anyway, I did cross that finish line in a lot more pain than I thought, moved over to first aid as soon as I could after, you know, I retrieved my drop bag, got changed, and the story will continue, so you guys can follow this. But I showed him my toes. It was pretty severe that I had some damage, some nerve damage, and the blisters were quite large, like blood blisters into the toenails. It was my first, you know, marathon blackened toenails, and they didn't want to deal with it. So there the toe journey starts. So now you know the toe journey of Wendy, and that's going to continue, and I can share more about that, because then it became a real big deal of how to heal this for Grand Canyon. But that's my race experience. David, share yours.
Well, if you'd have known, would you have stopped at the Temptation Station and taken a shot of Fireball?
At this point, yes, probably.
So for me, it was a blur, right? Like, you just don't know what you don't know. Mm-hmm. And so I was definitely physically and mentally underprepared, right? But I had decided that it's what I was going to do. And so
you were a little excited at the very beginning.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
you get in the moment. There are all the people. You have this imagination. You have like the Chariots of Fire music going on in your head, like you're thinking about yourself just running. And I'm gonna be humble, and I'm gonna do it in 2:20. And then the gun sort of went off, right? In a sort of weird way. Like everybody looked around like, were we supposed to start? And then it was on. And so I'm swept up in this group of faster runners, and I ran an incredible first mile. But then I needed to lay down. So you can't lay down in the middle of a race, I don't think. I didn't see anybody doing that. But I did have my trusty GoPro on a stick, and I'm like, I'm just going to step off, because it's still this wave of people. I'm going to step off into the sidewalk and pretend I'm filming and catch my breath for a minute.
Did you really?
I really did, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, that you got to protect the ego just a little bit, right? Like you just can't bend over and start.
Did you really do
huffing
this?
Air. I did.
Oh my gosh, that's so embarrassing.
That's how I got those great shots of everybody passing me. And then it was just into the dirt canyon, right? Because after that initial steep climb, you get off the road and into the dirt. I stopped looking at my watch. I realized, because I had these imaginary times that I was going to hit, because we trained in each section, I was so far off on the first one. I'm like, all right, I'm going to stop looking at this and just start concentrating on the now, being a nowist. And I did not probably say enough, gratitude to all the people helping. Had a couple interesting conversations with people. At my pace, I tended to be working with the people that were having a hard time. So I was able to relate in a lot of different ways. Despite the urge to have Fireball, I just had Otter Pops. And then picked up an older gentleman who had run over 100 marathons in his life. And first of all, he was just passing me then, so I'd been ahead of him. But he had a really good downhill pace, and I managed to pick that up for a few miles and ran the best miles of the race, where I felt like I was actually running and not just suffering.
Isn't that nice?
It was, yeah.
You get to a section, you just feel like you're floating.
And then I looked at my watch and I said, holy crap, I'm going to be at 3 hours on this, and shrugged my shoulders and figured Wendy had been there for, a couple of hours anyway. She'd probably taken a nap, eaten a cheeseburger, even though she doesn't eat cheeseburgers. And there you were. and then I found out how devastating your feet were. Like
Yeah.
you were immediately, it shifted
Broken.
from I finished the race to
Let's
why
go.
why is she limping on both feet, which is not an easy thing to do if you've ever
Yeah.
seen anybody try and do that.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it was awesome seeing you come through though. I mean, it was such a huge reward that like we did it, like all the hard work that we put into it just gave us this feeling that we could do it was more, it was like, okay, we accomplished that. I have a huge road now with my feet. It's going to be a problem and I'm going to have to like really dig in and try to figure out what's going on. But huge accomplishments. One thing I do have to share though, that this really was crazy. So I wore arm sleeves, one little thing. I wore arm sleeves, like sun sleeves, right? Sun sleeves. And, they have the one that's cut out where it fits over your my Garmin watch. And so, when I had got to the creek, I had splashed it with water to make it all wet, to cool my arms off and everything, doing the right things. And I remember when I was maybe like a mile and a half from the top, going up that hill, I wanted to check my heart rate because I'm like, I want to make sure I'm in my zone and all that. I looked down, I'm like, wow, my heart rate is just pretty low. That's amazing. I just don't feel like it's that low though, because I feel like I'm just kidding. It's up there, I just want to keep tabs on this. Well, what happened is part of my sun sleeve, the part that was cut out, had slid underneath the bottom of my watch. Had literally slid underneath the bottom of my watch. And so the heart rate monitor was reading the coolness of my skin through that skin sleeve, that sun sleeve. It was crazy. So I was like, it was like 76. I'm like, how can it be at 76? This is crazy. So yeah, anyway, something to be aware of. Don't let the sun sleeves creep up underneath your monitors on your watch because you never know where you're at with your heart rate. Otherwise, it might be fantastic.
Yes, the heart rate. So in that first mile when I went out too quickly, toward the point right before I pulled over and started filming people so I could catch my breath, I looked down at my watch. And if you've ever seen the movie where the spaceship goes into self-destruct mode and it's going right, and you've got to either do something or the spaceship's going to explode. That's what my watch was doing. I was looking down, I'm like, I've never seen the number that high. Oh, I'm lightheaded. oh, I probably cannot continue to do this at this pace. So, and just for all of you listening, the incredible pace for my first mile that I ran was just under 11 minutes. So
because everyone's like, let's hear about it.
Yeah. Oh, like he's probably run a 4-minute mile. No, I will never run a 4-minute mile. So as a new runner, right, like that's one of the things that you battle because I go online, I look at Instagram and YouTube videos and all these people that are running this incredible like race, right? Yeah. Because running, especially ultra running's become popular, became apparent very quickly that I needed to stop comparing myself, right? Because comparison is the death of joy. Yeah. And I'm actually enjoying this process. So you are not your feed. And I think that's an important thing to remember, as you look at your phone, listening to things like this. You're a unique individual. Like, do your thing and enjoy it and be yourself, but don't try and compare yourself.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think, Dave and I really wanted to do this together as a couple. We wanted to support each other through all the training. We really wanted to, have the education and learning because we wanted to also apply that to the bigger goal, which was to run the Grand Canyon. So it was like, hey, newbies, but hey, let's run the Grand Canyon. How can it be? Which, have we been on our feet long enough for like 10 hours that we could get through the Grand Canyon run? Because, the runs that we had been doing were maybe more like, 2-3 hours. So we hadn't done a 10-hour segment. So we didn't really think through that part on the Grand Canyon, which we can't wait to share with you how that turned out. But doing this was so inspiring. And I think we learned a lot of good things that we did right and a lot of good things that we did wrong. So going back to my feet journey, I immediately, knowing that this next event was coming up for us, I immediately had to start figuring out, first of all, how to heal the toes, watching every video that I could, what I needed to do next to protect the toes. And then it was, am I wearing the right shoe? And do I have the right socks? I hadn't, really dialed in any of that. And I remember driving over to one of the running stores here in Boise, Idaho, and having I believe the owner tell me that I was wearing one size too small. So I wear a women's, usually a women's 9.5. I need to be wearing a women's 10.5 or a men's 9, and probably start wearing more of a men's shoe just because it's a wider platform either way. A little more material, but wider platform all the way from the width of my foot. So it's just been a journey, and I felt a lot of pressure knowing that I had to get my feet healed really quickly, and you can't really heal things too quickly when you have nerve damage and kind of blackened toenails. How was I going to actually get my feet feeling good enough to be able to commit to the Grand Canyon? Because once you commit to the Grand Canyon, it's not like, no one's going to save you. So you're down there, it's a big journey. So yeah.
It's a big journey, but I got to admit to everybody out there that if it comes to having my toenails fall off, I'll probably end my running career very quickly. So I'm not going through all of the blister, toenail, like all of that stuff. So far, so good. My feet have been good, but I do want to share a quick framework for changing.
Go for it, Dave.
In your life.
Yeah, I love Dave. So he literally, I wish you guys could see this. He literally loves taking notes, and he has also a fidget widget. So I always call him a fidget widget. He has a pen where he constantly twists it. I wish you guys could see it. He has a pen that he constantly twists it back and forth when we're on our meetings, and it makes this really high pitched noise. You probably can't hear it, but when we're in meetings together, face to face on like Zoom calls, he's literally fidgeting with this little pen thing, and I always have to like touch his hand and be like, "Hey, cool." But anyway, on this notepad. So going back to that, if you have something for David's fidgety hands, let me know. Leave it a comment below. But he's got some great notes to share. So go for it, Dave.
Yeah, so we start off the episode by saying, if you're thinking of changing something in your life, then this is the episode for you. And obviously change is a constant, right? In fact, it's the only constant in life. And so I just want to give maybe a quick framework of how I think about change, because I've had to change so many different times. Sometimes it's been forced by life itself and circumstances, and sometimes it's been by choice, right? You want to achieve something, you want to be better at something. You want to run, right?
Yeah.
And so I've gone this far in life not running, and it was time to run. So the first part of changing something is you really need to acknowledge that the challenge exists. And good thing, bad thing, who knows? You can apply this to anything. So it can be, something bad has happened to you in your life, or it can be aspirational and you want to change something. But you have to acknowledge that a challenge exists, and it could be tough, right? And the immediate thing your brain does when you go into this change mode and you say, okay, I know I'm going to have a challenge, is the brain, it jumps up, and it's that old brain that says you're going to fail, right? Because you failed before when you did this, or you failed when you tried that. And that's your natural biology trying to keep you back from feeling that pain again. But that's what keeps us not advancing in life and not being successful. So you have to sort of dust that little guy off your shoulder and say, go away. I know who you are. We're going to do this anyway. So the first one was acknowledge that a challenge exists. Number two is define the barriers. So what's it going to take, right, to run this half marathon, to run the Grand Canyon, to actually be able to move yourself enough to be called a runner? And the barrier, a lot of times it's time, right? And energy and pain and, all of these things. Like going into it, I knew this was going to be what it was because I've tried running in the past, right? Like I've gone through this a couple times. I'm going to be a runner. And then a month later, I'm like, no, fuck that. I'm not going to be a runner. This sucks. So define the barriers, whatever it is you're doing. And then the third thing is, set the landscape of the solution. So what's the outcome you want? What do you need to do? What's it going to look like? How's it going to feel? And for the race to Roby Creek, I had imagined throwing my hands in the air with this incredible 2 hour and 20 minute-ish time and feeling great. And the fact of the matter is I was way over on the time, but I still threw my hands in the air, and because it was success to me to actually be able to finish. And now I know better. I won't be as underprepared next time. I've already said, okay, we're signing up for this thing next year, and I am actually going to hit my time. But I'm a realist as to what the work is going to take now. Any thoughts on that?
That's all good. I think knowing your end goal and not getting burnt out and also keeping it fun. If it's not fun, then you're probably not going to be motivated and you're going to do it, So it's just got to be fun with your training, whatever it is you are doing. It has to be fun. And I think, we're talking about running. It may not be running for you. It could be completely something different. But if you're not fueling your flame and it's not fun, even though not all of it is fun, there has to be some element of like enjoyment somewhere along the lines of it, or you're probably not going to be consistent in doing it. So we know that from the past. So you have to like find that in the space of what you love. And I just say that because otherwise you'll probably you'll stop, which is fine. And maybe it's not for you. You'll try something else. But whatever you do, know the end goal. For like us going into this race, it was all about finish, don't get hurt, enjoy, and have fun. I think we had a 3-word motto too at the very beginning, and I can't remember what they were, Dave, but we had wrote them on these yellow ribbons, and we hung them on our running packs. And it was like enjoy the run, have fun, don't get hurt, pray. I mean, there was like three or four things on our little yellow ribbons. Do you remember them?
Yeah, we covered most of them. Unfortunately, one of us got hurt. So
yeah, I know. Well, the toe thing was not expected, and I think knowing what I know now and the shoes that I'm training in now compared to what I was training in before has definitely made a huge difference. I just swapped into a different pair of shoes and I'm trying those now for my trail running shoes. And I just swapped into a different pair of road running shoes and I'm trying those now. Make a huge difference, as well as the sock, but also as well as my foot care and just knowing your feet, knowing your calluses, knowing what you're going to creep up. So I have done a lot of practice and I'm so excited to share with you guys the toe taping techniques that I've learned from Western states. So that's going to be a game changer. And I've been using that. So how to put all that together and make it work for you. But yeah.
So I know we need to close this out, but I want to say one thing.
Okay, Dave. Yeah.
Right. And don't think I'm disagreeing with Wendy here. I just have a different perspective on things, and that is fun, right? And so I don't expect the work to always be fun. In fact, I sometimes don't even expect it to be rewarding. Sometimes you have to do the work to actually get to the fun. It doesn't matter whether you're taking on running, building a business, changing your location, right? Moving, right? Like there's a lot of things in that process that are not fun. And that's sometimes what gets people to quit before the finish line.
And I want to add to that because sometimes the process definitely is not fun, but what you can enjoy is the benefits, is you can enjoy a healthy heart, a better looking body. You've done a lot of strength training. You've had a different, and it doesn't matter if you DNF'd, if you didn't even finish. The fact of the matter is you felt good up to that day. Even I remember asking on racing, like, I'm feeling pretty good. I have no injuries. I'm feeling really good. So for sure, the process can sometimes not be great. I mean, I went out on a training run today. Yeah, it was just an average run. It wasn't not every day run is like spectacular and chariots of fire. It was just a training run. It wasn't like this was my best run. It was just a run, but I was enjoying the best that I could for the hour that I was out there.
I think in the Marines, they say embrace the suck, right?
Yeah.
And that's part of the process. And I think we've just probably outed ourselves by using the Chariots of Fire reference twice in a single podcast.
You said it once, and so I picked up on it again. So, okay.
Like the people looking it up, they're like, what are they even talking about? Oh, that movie was in the 70s?
Should I say like achievement vlogs or achievement songs out there on YouTube that you can use for background music? Anyway, let's wrap this up. Thank you so much for being with us. This was a longer episode than we expected, but we wanted to get this episode out to you and just share with you to fuel your flame, light the inner fire that's inside of you. Don't give up and keep going, most importantly.
And if there's anything you ever want to hear us talk about, shoot us a comment. We're open.
All right.
All right.
Aloha.
Aloha.